everybody, welcome back. The Siberian Cat Lady here. It's still Derby Day. There's been a couple of things that have come up on some of the larger Siberian cat groups that kind of frustrated me a little bit, so I thought I'd bring them up. And one of those is people who want to get a kitten or cat and feel they don't need to go to a breeder who shows. Now, I know everybody's seen the meme floating around that, why would you buy a house from a builder who doesn't build to code? The answer is you wouldn't. They couldn't get permits. It wouldn't be able to be done. And that, to a large degree, is what you should be looking for in your Siberian. A proper Siberian kitten is going to cost you over $2,000. That's just the way it's going to go. I mean, there are a few special circumstances here and there and reasons why and so on and so forth, but for the average person, the average Siberian kitten right now in the US is going to cost you over $2,000. And when you purchase that kitten, you want to be sure you're getting a Siberian. You want a Siberian who looks like a Siberian, who acts predictably like a Siberian. This is why we buy pedigreed animals. We buy them to suit certain purposes. We don't go out and buy a Chihuahua to herd our horses. That doesn't happen, okay? And the same thing goes for cats, even though they aren't sold or raised for the purpose of working or a working ability, such as dogs and horses are. But when you're getting a pedigreed animal, you want that animal to look like and meet those expectations. But what are those expectations? Well, there's a written breed standard, and in this case, for the Siberian, this written breed standard came about from the Russians originally in the 1980s. And it has remained virtually intact, unchanged, through the different associations through the years. So it's really simple. You have a written set of instructions of how these cats should look. Obviously, there's wiggle room for interpretation everywhere. We all know that. In my book, The Siberian Cat, we have a chapter specifically on standards of perfection. Now, when we say perfection, that means the ideal animal with no faults. Probably doesn't exist, but that's what every breeder's goal should be. The breeder's goal should not be to raise cute little kittens to sell on the internet because they're supplementing their income. It doesn't happen that way. It just doesn't, folks. If you are taking your time, putting in the hours and hours and hundreds of hours of work, which includes hands-on socialization, grooming, cleaning, litters, time, talking to people. Trust me, I talk to 10 people before one even gets approved for my babies. And I'm not the only one by any stretch of the imagination. Siberians are a wildly popular breed, and they should be. They're a great cat. They're an archetypal great cat. But you want that breeder to have put their work in while you've done your work. You don't want to get scammed. Nobody wants that. But you need to know what it is that you're being scammed about. So, has this breeder been registered with one of the U.S. associations? You can look that up. CFA.org, TICA.org, LCWWgroup.com. Any one of those three, and there's also ACFAcat.com, I believe. We'll have a list of breeders that register through them. That does not make a breeder more or less of a scammer. It just means they've put the money into registering a name, cattery name that is unique to them, and their cats can be registered with that association. Therefore, their pedigrees are recognized by the association and in such a way that there is no other questionable breed in there. So somebody didn't sneak a little Oriental short hair in here or a Cornish Rex. You know, you're not going to get something weird pop up because the pedigree says you're not going to. The other thing you want to look for when you're requesting your breed is you want to look at what health testing is available and what has been done. DNA testing is easily done. It's between $50 and $100 domestically per cat, and this will give you reassurances that the parents at least can be completely free of completely normal genetic diseases. Now, new tests come along, but the great thing about most of these legitimate sites are that they will update with new tests. So if you've got 4 cats as a breeder that you've done DNA testing with, and a new test comes along, they'll go ahead and add that test on. So now you've got a running balance. It also gives you what colors are possible and what colors are not possible. And when you are looking for a kitten, you're going to want to say, do you test for that? Do you DNA test your cats? Thank you. The other things you want to be looking at specifically to Siberian will be the HCM, hypertrophic cardiomyopathy screenings. There is no current DNA test for the Siberian. Anyone that says otherwise is trying to get around it and trying to give you a really good line of crap. Okay, the only way that this can be done is on a regular basis. All of your adults in your house that you are using for breeding must go to a certified cardiologist and must be ultrasounded. This is expensive, folks. This can run anywhere from $200 per cat to $500 per cat. And this has to be done on a regular basis. And by regular, I mean every 1 to 2 years. This is not a one and done. Yes, a 9-month-old kitten darn well should be negative for HCM. But maybe by the time that cat develops at 3 to 4, 5, 6 years of age, this will have shown up and be developed. At which point you can take a look, you can notify your kitten people, and you can take that animal out of your breeding practices. But these are all things you should be looking for. There's also what's called PK death, and that will show up in the DNA testing. PKD1, and that will show up on the testing. Those are both kidney diseases. There is an ultrasound for PKD. PKD1 is specific to the Persian breeds. So if you have a Siberian that upon DNA testing shows a PKD1 gene, gotta kind of question what's back there in the woodshed. The PKD ultrasound, that is a one and done. Either they do or they do not have the cysts for it. And that is, again, done by ultrasound. And you're going to fall off, babe. Can be easily presented. A great way to find this is through the Siberian Cat Health Association's website. Now, there's over 350 breeders that I'm aware of in the United States currently, and we're speaking mainly about the United States at this point, guys. But the Siberian Cat Health Association website is a voluntary group of people that submit all of their original paperwork through Sue Case, and she will list those individual cats that she gets individual paperwork on. Now, out of the 350 plus breeders here in the US, how many do you think actually participate in that? Try 20 currently, maybe 21 if I miscounted. Be sure you're getting your kitten from one of these breeders. Guys, do your homework. Look it up. Read the book. It will tell you what you need to know. Look for good, healthy animals with healthy parents, with healthy grandparents. Again, just because you test one cat in your house doesn't mean any other cats are healthy or their grandparents were healthy. All right? Look for a nice long track record. Next thing that I want to address is cat shows. It was brought up today in a very popular Siberian group that cat shows are so stressful. Well, please visit any of my videos on the cats that we show on a regular basis, and you will see that cat shows are not stressful. When a cat is properly socialized, properly raised, has a correct temperament, has a suitable temperament, has a biddable temperament, and has been raised properly. But I don't want to go to a show. I don't want to go buy from a show breeder. They cost more. Yeah, they do. Of course they do. We put in thousands of dollars a year into going to shows. Sounds great. It's all for ego. It's all to get those titles and points. Okay, to some degree it is. Let's face it. Let's be honest about that. But this proves that our breeding animals have suitable temperaments, look like a Siberian, have suitable type to meet the breed standard, which is, after all, what you're paying for, but also that our animals are physically healthy, because physically unhealthy animals aren't allowed in the show hall and don't last very long. Kind of makes sense, doesn't it? That once again we go back to that buying a house from a builder that builds to code thing. You need a wall to be plumb and square and all those wonderful terms that I don't understand, which is why I hire a builder that goes and buys and builds to code. So when you approach a breeder and they're not showing and they give you the runaround of, oh, I don't have time, I think it's just a competition, a beauty competition. There isn't anyone near me. Okay. You know, and during COVID, let's give everybody a break. For 2 years, there were no shows. All right. So for those 2 years, everybody just gets a pass. We're done. Shows are back in full force. There is simply not a CFA or TICA region that does not have active showing in the U.S. at this time. There are still some international outliers that do not have, and we aren't really addressing that at this time because I'm not out there. I'm in the U.S., so that's what I'm referencing. Build to code, breed to code, and buy a pet that meets the standard. You want to get your money's worth. We want you to get your money's worth. Believe me, we want you to get your money's worth. But if I'm going down to Safeway and buying Friskies or Meow Mix, how much benefit do you think those cats are getting from that? As opposed to someone who feeds something that's a little more pricey, price alone not being the determiner, quality of the diet, because these are still obligate carnivores. And this goes back to showing, because if your cat is not healthy, if your cat's coat does not look good, if your cat's health is not good, your cat is not going to show. Your cat will be disqualified, awards withheld, or any of the other terms that are used in the various associations. Okay? You need to remember to look for cats that meet what you need, but also listen to breeders on what they say. If there are excuses and reasons why they can't do things, why they haven't done things, why they won't do things, run. There is absolutely no reason a cat can't go into a show and at least not be disqualified. Really, that's all you're looking for. You're not looking for the next great champion to be held up on high. You are looking for a cat meets the standard, looks like a Siberian. You're looking for a cat that is temperamentally suited, whether it is with children, with dogs, with a PTSD spouse that might need some support. There's all kinds of reasons for getting a pet. Get the pet that suits your needs. Find a breeder that's going to ask you the right questions. And then look up that information and confirm it, because we all know scammers out there lie. Everybody does. We all know somebody who's been scammed. But I looked it up. It looked good. Their pictures looked great. Yeah, except those were pictures from 8 years ago of another breeder in another country. All right, folks. I hope this helps. If you have any questions, if you have any concerns, I'm happy to answer questions. Drop me a message underneath. I will put the Siberian Cat Health Association's website underneath as well once we get that all set up. And go enjoy your Siberians. Bye.